Okay, welcome back to True North Christianity, where our goal is to keep you on the straight and narrow with God by keeping you anchored to biblical truth. And today we will be doing part 3 of the convergence of Islam, the beast, the mark of the beast, and the prophetic convergence that is happening in the world right now. Again, this is part 3. If you've not already seen parts 1 and 2, I highly recommend watching both of those before you watch this. The links will be in the description. Um, it's important to know that we're all on the same page here. Now, again, this is not a call to fight Muslims. This is not a fight to be leery of Muslims. This is a call in actually stark contrast. Spread the good news of the Bible to Muslims. Most will obviously reject you because most have been blinded by their faith. They've been lied to all this time, and even more so, they're probably just cultural Muslims that don't even know what their own book says, which is why it's so scary because unlike Christianity, you can be born a Muslim. You have a Muslim mom, a Muslim dad. When you're born, you are a Muslim. Um, there's no free will in that whatsoever. 100% against what our beliefs say. But again, this is not a call to have any hatred towards a people group. Love your Muslim friends and try to lead them to the truth. Try to lead them to God. Lead them to the God of the Bible, not the Allah of the Quran, and in eternity they will thank you for it. Today's topic, in sticking with this series, we'll be talking about beheadings. Seeing as how the Bible explicitly mentions beheading as being the primary method of execution during the tribulation period. Revelation 20, chapter 20, verse 4 says, "And I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their testimony of Jesus and for the Word of God." Now, growing up, I grew up in a fire and brimstone, hell and revelation church, which I'm thankful for because it kept me on the straight and narrow and always made me fearful of not sticking with God's plans. At the same time, there's a lot of doctrine that wasn't always rooted the right way, but I'm still very thankful for that. But in reading that in the past, I'm always like, that's not a very efficient way to get things done. So in America, in the West, with a more open mindset, I literally just thought of those as being believers from the first and second and early third century that this was in reference to. I no longer believe that. I no longer believe that because if you actually look at the Quran and the Islamic Hadiths, they both prescribe beheading for infidels and for apostates. Now, there's multiple, but just for one example, that would be Surah 47, verse 4. And it is remarkable and chilling how this is really beginning to come to light. When you have John, through a vision that God gave him, talking about, hey, here you go, all these beheaded people. Then you have the Quran saying, hey, we behead people. 1 plus 1 equals what? I'm not a math guy, but you know. And here we are now in an age when mass genocide methods very endlessly, this one stands out as prophetically precise, not symbolic, but descriptive. In fact, throughout the world, Islamic extremists are already fulfilling this prophecy, unfortunately, on an almost daily basis in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia through the killing of Christians and Jews via beheading. So this is actually one of the scariest parts. What Revelation foretold, terror groups throughout parts of the world are already normalizing it, and unfortunately through news, be it Fox or CNN, it's becoming normalized and almost accepted to where we don't even think twice about it. And that is very, very scary. We're going to have to really hustle if we're going to do this in just 3 parts, but this might actually end up being a 4-parter. You never know. Because right now we will look at the global expansion of the political beast known as Islam. See, Islam is more than a religion. Islam is actually a political movement. It is a political empire in the making, if we're going to be totally honest and transparent about it. Islam wants to control governments, legal systems, and economies. In fact, they're already doing it across the Middle East and expanding in regions of Europe, Africa, and Asia. Areas such as Egypt that were once 90% plus Christian are now predominantly Islamic. And it's a different subject, but and we will broach this at some point. But if you look at the economic declines and the moral declines and the physical decay of nations, it is usually rooted in Islamic takeover. But even with it being such a visible cancer, it is for multiple reasons the fastest growing faith on earth. It is fueled somewhat by migration. It is somewhat fueled by aggressive evangelism, even though Christianity still has a higher conversion rate. Year over year, last I saw, Islam from a voluntary conversion rate was only 2.5%, whereas Christianity, for people that convert from no faith or one faith to another faith, Christianity is at 5%. So Christianity does have a better conversion rate. But the biggest way that Islam is winning is through high birth rates. Again, as I've stated, with being a Muslim, unlike Christianity, mom's a Muslim, dad's a Muslim, you're born, you're a Muslim. Not by choice, but by birth. Which is far from the God that we serve. The God that we serve wants people to come to Him, not be forced to serve Him. Free will is a huge difference between Islam and Christianity. But high birth rates is one of the biggest ways that it is taking over. In Western nations, though, from Australia to Germany, the UK, Canada, and in areas of the US, Islamic movements are pushing for Sharia courts, religious protections, and political representation aligned with Sharia theology. See, there are places like Dearborn, Michigan, Minneapolis, and newly influenced urban centers. This trend is accelerating. And not to bring up recent politics, but New York City, brace for what is coming, because you guys have just elected your first openly Muslim mayor. Okay. Just 24 years ago, we all said never forget, and how quickly you have forgotten. So, unfortunately, what is already going on in areas of Minneapolis and Dearborn, Michigan, could really become normalized in one of the world's largest cities, and that scares me. Because unfortunately, at this moment, it's not violence that is conquering; it's population, legislation, and persuasion. And it is all being put out there under the very unfortunate guise of, oh, we're the minority. You need to protect us. You need to be tolerant of us. And no, that is a lie from the seed of Satan, and that is how it is worming its way into current culture, is by them playing the victim until they are strong. Again, that is a video for a different day, but yeah, this is already to 12 minutes. We're gonna have to cut this off here, make it part 4 for this series, but this is very, very important, so I don't want to race through it. But right now, it is very important that you've watched part 1, part 2, and part 3 before we get into part 4, which we'll do a quick framing of what we've covered in today's video, and we will then go to economic control and the mark. I look very forward to continuing this conversation in part 4.